when we are working with other people, the more that we can get a sense of where our attention is, where we've gone to in our heads, whether we're in our bodies or not, all of that is really helpful in then bringing ourselves back into our work with our clients, whether it's a one-to-one or a group situation. So why am I here? Why am I talking to you about deepening inquiry? I've been working as a coach for a long time, working with people in many different countries. I've been developing coaches and working with them as they implement new skills. And I got into breathwork and decided I wanted to train as a facilitator because I was really aware that so many people are stuck in their heads. And certainly for the people that I work with that have been in emergency situations, they have faced trauma and traumatic situations. And you know, they've come back from those, they've had access to therapy, and then a few months on, a year on, something is still not sitting right in terms of their career, their life, how they're being in the world. And yeah, I've really found that through breathwork, it's a way of just people accessing their narrative and what's happened for them in a different way, and being in the here and now. So that's kind of where I'm here. I'm bringing to you just some ideas that come from coaching, linked to breathwork, because I think now what I do is in that opening conversation that you have with people, I bring in breathwork exercises, whether that's to calm them down or to get more energy into the conversation. And then I do some kind of playlist, whether that's, how some of you will be, doing your playlist over the next few days, or whether that's using the binaural rhythms in a new way to help what we've talked about just to land. And I think that's what's really exciting about breathwork and inquiry, is that there are so many variations and so much creativity in how we can use all of these ideas. So what I want to do in this session this morning is just to share some practical insights, to do some exercises together, to answer questions, and just go a bit deeper to build on those of you that have done the class on powerful inquiry already. So I will look to build on what you've covered during that already. We will have time for Q&A. There will be several opportunities, a couple of opportunities for that. And I would also say, I'm sure that looking at some of the faces here, some of the people I recognize, people that I don't know, there will be others of you that can contribute around deepening inquiry. So please do add in your contributions into the chat box. We always say that we can save the chat at the end of a session, so you will end up with a fuller resource. So do feel free to add in what's worked for you as well. So in that way, we're sharing our expertise together. But I have a few pointers to take you through this morning. Some of, I guess my starting point for this session will be looking at one-to-one and one-to-one conversations. But I also do a lot of team coaching, some team breathworks as well. There's a lot of similarity, and we can also talk about some of the differences later as well. So what I thought we would do first of all is I thought we'd start with just a little exercise. So, and many of you have your Zoom little snapshot, or you might want to put your video on, or you can have the opportunity to look at someone else's little Zoom picture, but do so without judgment. So maybe if you've got your camera on, look at your own. And I just want, as you are looking at your little thumbnail, what do you notice? What stands out for you? And then begin to ask yourself, is that representative of you? So just start a couple of minutes looking at your own profile or look at someone else's without judgment. What do you notice? And you can put a few things into the chat box. Yeah, be honest, Pablo. Great. Lovely. Fun in a child. Yeah. Whether people are tense, relaxed, attentive, wonder. What about some of the things behind you as well? Some of you, I can see you've got pictures. Okay, so really interesting that some of you are just picking up on yourself. You know, I look too serious. With aging, I now look sterner than ever. Liking other people's smile a bit more than your own. And yeah, we do that so readily, don't we? You know, I'm trying not to look at my thumbnail. I can look at the rest of yours and just hope that I can blank out my own one. But we do that so readily, just that deficit thinking, what we don't like. And there is a link between that and the coaching or the encounter that you have with someone. You might, when you are working with them and asking them things about themselves, you know, you might say, what is it you like to do? What do you enjoy doing in life? People will often come back to us telling us what they don't like. You know, if you ask someone what their skills are, they'll come back and say, oh, I'm not very good at this. And you kind of think, well, that's not what I asked you. So we can readily just switch into who we are not rather than who we are, or become slightly envious about, you know, what we see in someone else's little picture. I like it that, yeah, for some of you it's colorful. Some of you have pictures, a lot of things behind you, or nothing at all. Another point that I want to make about that is, you know, as I look at those pictures, or as you look at someone else's, you don't know whether that's significant or not. You know, some of the pictures you've got, I could begin to interpret that. All right, that person must love the water or surfing or whatever it is. Or that person must really love plants because they've got a plant behind them, or they've got an image of trees. But we have to be really, really careful when we're working with other people not to interpret, not to try and decode. Because what we'll be doing, therefore, is we'll be bringing in our own biases, making assumptions about the other person, which may or may not be true. So be really careful. Someone says they've got messiness around them. Yeah, great. Who knows how you relate to that messiness, whether it's helpful for you or whether it gets on your nerves, who knows? But that's the kind of thing that you can look at in terms of inquiries to find out, you know, whether this is important or not to the person, enabling them to be curious about it or not. And then the other thing that I really wanted to draw out is that, you know, whether it's nature that you've got, whether it's a picture of your inner child, whether it's books, whatever it is, whether you've got a pet that keeps rushing behind you or on your lap, it's all about that we are in relationship with the world, whether we understand ourselves to be or not. So sometimes when we're working with an individual, we may think that we just connect with that individual, but we have to help them to see that they are very much within a context. And that's really helpful as we seek to get to know that person, because we can broaden out the questions just in terms of, you know, the bigger picture that's there for them. And that is really helpful in bringing in some more resourcefulness and helping people to tap into, rather than just a single perspective that they might have about their situation. If you broaden things out, it can bring in some more help and curiosity about how they're seeing the situation. So that was just to get you going. I'm now just going to share my screen, and let's see. Okay. You're just looking at 3 boxes. I've pressed slideshow. Is it on one or many? Oh, okay. Ah, there we go. Okay, so this is a slide. It comes from someone who's written an awful lot on coaching and mentoring and supervision. So David Clutterbuck. He wrote this, I think it was 2008. So, but it still is really helpful because it shows the bigger picture of what's going on within an intervention. Because we tend to focus on that bit in the middle, that green hexagon that I'm showing there. But actually, there are backstories. There is what's going on under the surface during an encounter. And there's also what happens next. So I just wanted to show you this, to show that there is a linear sense to it, but it's also very multi-layered. It's not just about that one moment where you're actually meeting the person. So there's all the inner dialogue that you have ahead of your meeting with this client or your online session with them. There's how prepared you are. There's also about, you know, the practice that you have that equips you to be able to do this work, and how confident you feel in it, or where you feel anxieties as well. So all of that is going on ahead of time. There's also what's going on for the client. And I think we sometimes forget that side of it. So what is happening for the client? Why have they chosen now to come into breathwork, or to choose you? Why have they chosen you? Or people coming to your group session. It's always interesting to find out more about their motivation. What brings them? Why is it completely relevant? Why are they seeking help? Or what is it that they want from you at this moment? There are also those conversations that are happening when you are in that moment of meeting. So there's what's going on in your mind. So for me at this moment, yeah, I've got how long we've got for this session, making time for questions, should I be looking at the chat, you know, what else is going on? You've got these multiple layers here, but you've also, it's really helpful to understand that that is going on for the client as well, that they are having things around whether they feel safe, whether they trust you. Are they thinking, what the heck is required of me here? Do they feel happy that they've chosen you, that they've taken this moment to do this work with you? All of that is relevant because it is feeding in to that moment of meeting, that green hexagon in the middle. So, and what we really want in that moment of meeting is we want it to be about an experience. They've probably spoken a number of times about this issue with a number of friends or family members. But what you're wanting in terms of a deep sense of inquiry is you want this to feel like a different meeting, a different conversation, one where they're able to explore new ground, new perspectives. And what I love about breathwork is that when we work with the mind is often concerned with the past, the mind is concerned with the future. But what the breathwork does is it brings us into that moment, into this moment, just like Pablo getting us all to do that breathwork at the beginning. It caused us to be here. And that's what's really helpful in terms of talking about an experience with someone, You don't want them to get carried away in the narrative again. What's really helpful, and this taps into all the practice of Gestalt and everything like that, is for you to be able to ask the person, so what is it like to talk about that experience in the here and now? How are you feeling as you're talking about that with me now? What's new? What's different? What are you ready to do now? So that real difference between experience and information. And it's really important in that to listen to all of that without judgment, to just be there in that present moment and hold that person as they talk about things. You sometimes have people that talk an awful lot and they want to share every detail with you. And it's really important for you to realize that you don't need to know everything about the other person's situation, but also they don't need to air the whole of their story again. So, you know, sometimes I've worked with people and they've been giving me lots of detail, and I've just got them to focus down and just say, in this, as part of this conversation, as part of this breath work, what is it most important for me to know to be able to work with you? So it's just a different way of thinking about things. And the last two boxes, the reflections afterwards, you know, so a client, you know, what are they going away and thinking about? Remembering that you are working with them and it's part of a much longer arc of development. Your meeting with them is just one episode as part of that longer arc of development. What are you promising them in terms of follow-up? You know, are you going to stay in contact? Think that through in advance. Are they going to contact you when, you know, they have begun to put things into practice or to notice differences? You know, how have you left it in terms of, will they come back? You know, will you send them a follow-up message? And then there's also your own reflection afterwards. What did you learn? You know, where did it feel that you were working on your edge? What would you want to do differently another time? So all of that is really important. So that's the 7 conversations of David Clutterbuck. I'm just going to come out of that for now. And what I want to do, before I just open it up for an initial sense of any questions you have, I just wanted to pick up on firstly something around practitioners and then something around clients as well. So we as practitioners, we can go into these conversations, into our breath work, really attached to outcomes. You know, we care about this stuff. We care about other people. But I'm sure your facilitators have said it to you, but people change faster if we don't attempt to change them. So the more that we can let go of our attachment to outcomes, the more we are able to be present to the other person in their situation. And the more that they can find their own strengths and resourcefulness to be able to find their way through. We have to work really hard, and I speak as someone who is always attempting to do better, to come out of a helping mentality, a helping mindset. You know, I saw some acknowledgement. Yeah, that is our stuff. We need to explore that for ourselves and to keep that separate for when we are working with clients. So we need to loosen that grip on that mindset that we can have about helping other people. We need to understand why that's there for us. But people heal, it's because it's there inside of them, and we are helping them through the process that we create with them to find their own inner healing. And the more that we can let go of that mindset, the more that we sit there in an expanded sense of presence, where it is more about ourself and it is less about technique, and it is less about us trying hard. And what we want is we want the people we work with, the clients, to open up to this process of learning and to feel safe enough and trust us that we are sitting there meeting them in their humanity, and that they can then feel that they can express that vulnerability in front of us. So one more thing, and then one more kind of series of points, and then we'll take some initial questions. So picking up on clients, what do they need? I think it's really important to remember your first experience of breathwork, or an initial one-on-one experience that you had. So, or maybe your first AOB experience on a Sunday, or whatever it is. Stay in touch with that initial experience. What is it you needed? What was going on for you? And the more that you can remember that and bring that into your encounters with new clients, the more that you will be helping their nervous system to calm down and not be activated. So for me, I did a workshop while I was doing my AOB training. I went to a workshop and I followed it up with a one-on-one meeting with the facilitator, very experienced facilitator. I went to her apartment, and even though I was training in breathwork and I'd been to her workshop, walking into that apartment and seeing the mattress on the floor, even though I knew what was likely to be happening, it still felt really strange to be doing this in an unfamiliar setting. So I think it's just really important that we remember that, and that we are all the time having to put people at their ease, because we are asking them to do something, certainly if it's face-to-face, that is unfamiliar. Sometimes it is easier if it's online, because they are in their own space, but still, yeah, making them feel at ease that yes, parts of this will feel strange. I do really believe that resolution for people is within them. Often the people that we work with, they are looking for something out there all the time. If only I could do this, if only I got this, or once I've resolved this, then I will be fine. And I believe that the resolution is there within everybody, but it's just covered up by layers and obstructions, and that what is possible through breathwork is that these layers just melt away, and that's the container that we're creating for people, so that the layers just melt away. And because of the relationship that we're able to build with those people, there is sometimes what we do with what we say is that we are tuning into something in their higher self. So it may be something very simple that you say, but it's recognized by the client's higher self. And that's why there's this whole conscious, unconscious alignment, and that something shifts for people. Something that's really helpful is for you to identify when you first meet someone and they talk about an issue, how closely identified are they with it? Is it so much part of them that they're holding it really, really tight? What I think is true for nearly everybody is that we do need to have some distance to be able to explore issues. So again, that's the real value of breathwork, because it enables us to come at things from the side, and people can relax their defenses some more, and and really begin to relate to their issue in a different way. It's also important if someone's really talking about all the details of a situation that they faced and they're really closely involved in it, then we have that ability to say, let's zoom out. What's the bigger picture here? Who else was involved? What happened before? What happened after? So if someone is so involved in the details, then get them to think bigger. And if someone is talking at this huge level out here, then get them to chunk down, to zoom in a bit more and just say, and where are you in this? So just those different ways of looking at how identified someone is in a situation. There's always something around pace. If someone is rushing how they're talking about something, there's often a reluctance to show vulnerability, you know, because they're rushing to tell you everything. And that's the value of just saying, let's slow down, let's take a breath. And after taking a breath, what feels really important to you in what you've just said? And how best can we take this forward? So really, and varying the pace. If someone's feeling kind of quite slow, then maybe you bring in some movement. There's always also the element of energy. You know, is it high energy? Is it flat? A technique that I find really helpful is, you know, if someone feels very flat, you know, almost worn down by the world, then yeah, it's really helpful to get them to just think about their hands, look at their hands, notice their hands, and then begin to rub them together, you know, and notice how that feels. And I think it was something that I learned in sports massage a long time ago before working on clients. If you rub your hands together, you then can hold them like this and you feel that real energetic force between them. So for someone who is not used to feeling things in their body, you can get them to do this, feel that, put that on their heart or some part of their body, and really begin to realize that, yeah, I can feel in my body, which could be a massive shift for someone who has been up in their head and just been, their body is well defended, you know, keep out. So, you know, really getting people to do some little things can cause huge shifts emotionally. And also it's really important to make sure that they have their feet on the ground if they're sitting up, so that energy can go out through the ground as well, that being grounded. And I love all these kind of things because I think that when you are working with someone, what you are enabling them to do is you are enabling them to build up this longer term awareness. You know, they're on this longer arc of development. So you are wanting to build that awareness and build that resilience that they can continue to do these things for themselves. So I wanted to, we're just going to do a quick exercise, another quick exercise. So I want you to think yourselves into the mentality of being an activated client, or if it's your breathwork coming up soon, you might be there already. Okay, but I just want you to, you know, there are people that we work with, you can often spot them, their chins are slightly forward, you know, it's kind of quite rushed in their speech. And you come across, I certainly come across these people a lot. And one of the things that you can do is you can get them to see how much they're breathing using their neck muscles. So if someone is highly activated, the chances are that they are breathing using these neck muscles, the scalene muscles. So you have your sternocleidomastoid. I don't know, just leaning forward here. Mine is quite pronounced. So I don't want anyone to injure it themselves. Don't go for the jugular. But you have this rope-like muscle on either side. But what you can do is, if you can grab hold of that, you then push it forward, and just behind it, you have scalene muscles here. And I went on a cycle ride yesterday, and obviously poor posture, mine are very tight, okay? So yeah, some of you might be. But anyway, if people are breathing and they are more activated in the upper part of their body, they will be using these scalene muscles. So what I want you to try now is to just think of yourself, put yourself in the mentality of someone slightly panicky, stressed. Whoa, this breath work, not sure if I mean to be here or not. Just put your fingertips just above your collarbone. And just see when you breathe, whether those muscles are activated or not. So, you know, if you're so very calm and chilled, then maybe, you know, you want to think yourself into a bit of a panic to realize what it would be like for other people. Yeah, and if you can feel that, then just see what happens when you put your hand on your belly and you start to take just deeper breaths. Because what we would be wanting people to realize is that actually if they breathe into their bellies, then they stop breathing using these muscles up here, and they will find a calmer way of being. And this is what's so fantastic about breath work, is that we can change things physiologically, and it changes how we respond to things emotionally. I just wanted to pick up on listening and then questioning. So we get taught how to speak in schools and to make speeches and presentations, but we're rarely taught how to listen. And I think for me, it was one of my big learnings in the T9 breathwork learning, was around listening from the heart and not from the head. So up to that point, I think, you know, you knew about 2 ears, 1 mouth, you know, active listening, paraphrasing, all of that. But listening from the heart, I think, is really very, very different. And, you know, I'm now really clear that why it's different is that, you know, we have this energetic field that extends out several feet. And so our heart field, if we're meeting with someone face to face, can cross over with someone else's. And it also works online as well. So if you are, you know, kind of listening from the heart, that does radiate outward and help that connection with other people and build that whole relational resonance. I also didn't know until recently that the energetic field of the heart is actually 100 times stronger than that of our brain. So, you know, that's why it's well worth just really building in a heart practice from into what you do. So I just again going to, as you can see, I don't have many slides, so let's just move. Okay, so I really like this acronym. If listening is critical, then wait. So just remember WAIT as an acronym. W-A-I-T. Why am I talking? Very often when we're in, you know, situations where we do have some nervousness, it's hard for us to pause, or a pause feels like an inordinate amount of time. But in that silence, a lot can happen. A person can go much deeper. Whereas if we are coming out with more questions or moving things on too fast, we are actually ruining the moment or rushing the moment in a way that we really don't want that to happen with our clients. And then the other thing that I think is really good when you pause more, when you wait, is that you become more able to tune into thresholds that are happening for people. So listening out for openings in what someone is saying, because those are going to be really helpful. Those are coming up from their unconscious. And when people are close to a threshold, they are always showing slightly more edgy behavior, slight anxiety. Do I want this? Do I want to stay with what's familiar? Do I want to move somewhere else? So, you know, and if you have a sense that someone is at a threshold, you know, you can just say, I sense something is trying to happen here. What do you need to let go of for that to happen? You can get them to try out what it will be like in that new future. So, you know, all of that, you know, is really important. And I like that sense of thresholds. It's a bit like if someone is a trapeze artist, you know, and they're on a swing, yeah, they're swinging across. Are they going to let go? Are they going to let go? And then some people do. And then they're into the unfamiliar. And that's where it's really important in terms of this space that we are holding for other people. Okay, so just before we do the, I'm just having a look at time. I just want you to, one of the things if I'm working with other people and they may be newish to thinking about their bodies and using the learning from that, is to get them to think about, you know, what does a yes feel like in your body? Or what does no feel like in your body? Because again, it's a bit like the neck muscles. You know, if we're faced with a new situation and we can actually think, oh yeah, I know something is all aligned because I feel this way in my body. Or if I know what resistance feels like because I feel this tightening and where that is. So all of that could be other exercises that you could do with the people that you work with. So my last slide here, this is taken from Michael Bungay-Stanier, who's written The Coaching Habit. He says that you only really need 7 questions and you don't need to ask them all. And I've only got 3 up here, just because I knew we would be tight on time. So you can Google for the other 4. And what else is a really good question to ask of people, because if we just ask a question, someone gives an answer, it can become a bit like ping pong. But if you ask the question, and what else, it immediately means that someone goes much, much deeper. And what else? Pause. The next question there is, what is the real challenge here for you? So what is the real challenge? That's really good because it means you're not making assumptions about why someone might find this difficult, whereas what's the problem? But the bit I really like is the for you on the end. You know, that is making it really personal and, you know, will give you powerful data to work with. And then the other one, if you say yes to this, what must you say no to? Michael calls this the strategic question, that rather than just adding layers and layers in someone's life, it is again the letting go. So what do you stop doing? If you really want this in your life, what are you stopping doing, rather than crowding in more things and maybe not moving on in a real way? And the other thing that I wanted to say about questions is that I find it really helpful at the end of a conversation with someone, just as part of that finishing off, is, you know, what's the question that you're going to take away, that you want to continue to process and think about the experience that you've had here today? Why that is really powerful is that keeps the unconscious working on this issue Because while we have a question, our unconscious seeks to answer it. And so just saying to someone at the end of the conversation, what's the question you are going to take away and keep working on or keep thinking about, is really effective way of working with someone. They might not be able to think of it in that moment, especially if they're a bit spacey. But yeah, at least they would have that idea. Okay, I'm going to think about, as I leave this session, they would maybe be articulating a question for themselves. So finally, what I wanted to say was just key takeaways. Coaching, inquiry within breathwork, it is a creative process. It is not formulaic. No two clients, no two group works are the same. And that's what makes it really exciting. It is a craft that we are constantly refining. So we will always be developing in this work that we do. And that's really helpful, because certainly when I work with clients over a number of sessions, they need variety. Yeah, some of you may well do group sessions where people crave similarity, and maybe that's good for their nervous system. For me and the clients that I work with, they need some subtle changes to keep that curiosity alive. And then as practitioners, we need to be using both parts of our brain, our left and right hemisphere, and the whole of our body as we work with individuals. So we do have that presence that Attila, drew attention to. We are working from the heart. We're also making linkages with our right hemisphere and picking up on details with our left. And we're doing all of this without attachment to outcomes. We are doing it for the person themselves so that they can see themselves differently and accept what is possible for them. And that for me means that you are building up capacity, the inner healer within the people that you work with. And that for me is the real gift of inquiry within breathwork. So